How uninsured and underinsured motorist claims work in Connecticut. Being hurt in a car crash is overwhelming, and that stress often intensifies when the driver who caused the collision has no insurance or not enough coverage to pay for the harm done. Even though Connecticut requires auto insurance, uninsured and underinsured drivers remain a real problem on the state's roads. This is why uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage exists and why understanding how these claims work can make a meaningful difference after an accident. Connecticut law requires every auto policy issued in the state to include uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. This protection is designed to step in when the at-fault driver cannot fully compensate you for injuries and losses. The minimum required limits are $25,000 per person and $50,000 per accident for bodily injury, which match the state's minimum liability limits. Unless a policyholder signs a written informed consent to lower coverage, and UIM limits typically match the bodily injury liability limits purchased on the policy, and they cannot be reduced below the statutory minimum. Uninsured motorist coverage applies when the at-fault driver has no insurance at all or when the driver is unidentified, such as in a hit and run. Underinsured motorist coverage applies when the at-fault driver has insurance, but the available liability limits are less than the injured person's or UIM limits. In underinsured situations, the injured person first recovers what they can from the at-fault driver's policy and then seeks additional compensation from their own insurer, up to the limits of their coverage. Connecticut also offers underinsured motorist conversion coverage, an optional enhancement that can significantly affect recovery. With standard underinsured coverage, any amount paid by the at-fault driver's insurer is credited against the UIM limits. Conversion coverage works differently by allowing the injured person to collect the full amount of the at-fault driver's liability coverage and the full amount of their own conversion coverage, stacking the two for a higher total recovery. Insurance companies must offer this option, but it requires an additional premium and must be affirmatively chosen. There are strict time rules that apply to these claims. Connecticut does not allow insurance policies to shorten the time to file suit or demand arbitration on an or UIM claim to less than 3 years from the date of the accident. For underinsured claims, the statute of limitations can be paused by giving written notice to the insurer before the 3-year deadline, followed by a 180-day period after the at-fault driver's limits are exhausted to formally pursue the claim. Special, shorter deadlines may apply if coverage is denied or an insurer becomes insolvent, making prompt action essential. Even though the claim is made against your own insurer, challenges are common. Insurance companies may dispute fault under Connecticut's modified comparative negligence rules, argue that injuries were pre-existing, or minimize the value of pain and suffering. Policies may also contain exclusions, and Connecticut law prohibits stacking or UIM coverage across multiple vehicles or policies for a single accident. These issues can turn what seems like straightforward coverage into a contested process. In many cases, working with a lawyer can help address these disputes and protect your rights under the policy. A lawyer may also help coordinate settlements with the at-fault driver's insurer before pursuing underinsured benefits. When liability is contested, damages are substantial, or a claim is denied, an attorney can evaluate whether the insurer's position is justified and pursue arbitration or litigation when necessary. An attorney familiar with and UIM claims can also explain how conversion coverage applies and whether deadlines have been properly told. Uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage exists to close the gap left when the other driver cannot pay, but using it effectively requires understanding how the rules work and acting within the required timeframes. This law firm understands how confusing and frustrating that process can feel after a serious crash. DeFronzo and Petroskey, P.C. is a law firm located at 255 Bank Street No. 2B, Waterbury, Connecticut, 06702, United States, and can be reached at 203-756-7408. If you were injured by an uninsured or underinsured driver, having guidance from people who focus on protecting injured Connecticut residents can help you move forward with clarity and confidence.